Cosmic rays pass by, particles moving near the speed of light, born in distant supernovas. Imagine a battlefield where no missiles roar, no jets scream through the sky, and yet an entire superpower's pride is shattered in silence. Picture a smaller nation outthinking one of the world's strongest military giants, not with brute force, but with brilliance, deception, and strategy so sharp it rewrote the rules of war. This is not science fiction. This is the story of how Ukraine tricked China's most advanced air defense system, and what happened next shook the entire world. In the heart of a digital battlefield, where every radar pulse and coded transmission could decide the fate of nations, Ukraine delivered a masterstroke that stunned the world. The operation was not just a confrontation of arms, it was a contest of intellect, deception, and courage. When facing China's most advanced air defense system, an intricate network of radar arrays, satellite-linked sensors, and automated missile interceptors, Ukraine understood one simple truth: no machine, no matter how sophisticated, is immune to human ingenuity. Instead of attacking the defense system head-on, Ukraine chose a path of invisibility, confusion, and precision. The plan began with silence. Ukrainian intelligence operatives had spent months studying the behavioral patterns of Chinese radar responses, signal encryption frequencies, and algorithmic reaction times. They discovered subtle gaps, fractions of seconds when the system recalibrated itself after identifying multiple targets. Those moments of digital blindness, though nearly imperceptible, were enough to build a strategy around. Ukraine's military engineers designed a deception operation that would exploit those micro-moments and force the Chinese defense to see ghosts where none existed. The stage was set with the use of decoy drones, crafted to mimic the radar signatures of real combat aircraft. These decoys were not ordinary drones. They emitted false electromagnetic signals, heat signatures, and even fake transponder IDs, to simulate a squadron of advanced fighter jets. Flying low and erratic, they crossed into the monitored airspace in a synchronized formation designed to trigger the Chinese radar's automatic targeting systems. The defense system reacted instantly, locking onto the apparent threat with precision, only to find itself chasing phantoms, while China's defense scrambled to intercept what it believed to be incoming jets. Ukraine launched the second layer of its operation, a cyber interference strike. Electronic warfare units transmitted coded pulses, aimed at overloading the radar's data processing capacity. The interference caused minor delays in the system's real-time tracking, small enough to be unnoticed at first, but critical in a high-speed engagement. The Chinese command stations, overwhelmed by the incoming flood of false data, redirected their interceptors toward decoy coordinates. Behind this smoke of digital illusion, Ukraine moved its real assets. Drones equipped with reconnaissance and precision attack payloads slipped through the blind spots that the decoys had created. These drones carried out their objectives with surgical precision, gathering data, marking key targets, and in some cases, executing limited strikes that went completely undetected. By the time the Chinese operators realized they were targeting illusions, Ukraine had already extracted vital intelligence and retreated safely. What made this operation remarkable was not the technology itself, but how it was used. Ukraine didn't rely on superior weaponry or overwhelming force. They relied on understanding their enemy's pride in its own systems. China's confidence in its air defense made it predictable. Ukraine turned that predictability into a weakness. In modern warfare, where artificial intelligence and automation dominate, Ukraine reminded the world that strategy still belongs to the human mind. This act of deception was more than a tactical victory. It was a statement of defiance. It showed that smaller nations could stand against superpowers by outthinking them, rather than outgunning them. It also exposed a universal truth about modern conflict: that technology, however advanced, is only as smart as the people commanding it. In this case, Ukraine's blend of cyber intelligence, psychological warfare, and tactical innovation created a symphony of confusion that left even the most advanced defense systems in disarray. The operation became a defining chapter in the evolution of warfare, a living example that the future belongs not to those who possess the most powerful machines, but to those who know how to manipulate them. Ukraine's deception was not an act of aggression, it was a demonstration of survival through brilliance. In a war dominated by drones and data, the sharpest weapon was not metal or code, it was the human mind, armed with strategy and the courage to defy the impossible. The aftermath of Ukraine's deception operation sent tremors across the global defense landscape. What began as a tactical maneuver quickly transformed into a geopolitical earthquake. When the news broke that Ukraine had successfully tricked and bypassed China's most advanced air defense system, military analysts, strategists, and intelligence agencies worldwide were forced to reassess everything they thought they knew about modern warfare. The embarrassment for China was immense. A nation that prided itself on building one of the most impenetrable defensive shields on Earth suddenly found its vulnerabilities exposed in the most public and humiliating way possible. The very system that was supposed to symbolize China's technological dominance had been undone not by superior firepower, but by superior intellect. In Beijing, the initial response was denial. Chinese defense officials dismissed early reports as propaganda, claiming no breach had occurred. But as satellite data and independent intelligence confirmations began to surface, the truth became undeniable. The incident had indeed taken place, and China's most advanced radar and missile interception technology had been effectively neutralized by Ukraine's cyber and drone deception. The internal shock within China's military establishment was severe. Engineers and defense researchers were called in for emergency reviews. Internal investigations began, and classified reports were rewritten overnight. The event challenged not just the reliability of a single defense system, but the credibility of China's entire military deterrent image. Outside China, global defense circles reacted with fascination and alarm. NATO, the United States, and European intelligence agencies quietly studied Ukraine's tactics, realizing that the event marked a new chapter in the art of warfare. Military journals began referring to it as the ghost strike, symbolizing how unseen and untraceable deception could cripple even the strongest defenses. Defense contractors, who for years had sold the idea that technological superiority equaled invincibility, suddenly faced uncomfortable questions from their clients. If a mid-sized country like Ukraine could outsmart a superpower's air defense, what did that mean for the billions being spent on advanced weapon systems worldwide? The fallout also sparked an intense debate within the international military community about the nature of future conflicts. Traditional doctrines that relied on overwhelming force and heavy hardware were being replaced by ideas of information warfare, artificial intelligence manipulation, and psychological operations. The balance of power was shifting, not through military might, but through innovation and intelligence. Ukraine had demonstrated that victory in the digital age depended not on who had the largest army, but on who could see, think, and act fast. The strike became a case study in major military academies, symbolizing the dawn of hybrid warfare, where cyber intelligence and electronic deception could achieve what missiles and bombs could not. For China, the reputational damage was perhaps the most painful aspect. Allies who had purchased or were negotiating to acquire Chinese air defense systems began to question their investments. Countries like Pakistan and several Middle Eastern nations, who relied on Chinese technology for national defense, demanded reassurance. Global trust in Chinese defense exports wavered, and competitors quickly seized the opportunity. Russia, Israel, and the United States began promoting their own systems as more reliable, leveraging the incident as proof of China's overconfidence. On the political stage, Ukraine's success became a symbol of defiance and ingenuity. It elevated the nation's standing, not only among its allies, but also among neutral observers who admired the audacity of a smaller nation, daring to challenge and outwit a superpower. The operation became a powerful narrative of brains over brawn, of resilience over intimidation, Western leaders quietly celebrated the event as a reminder that authoritarian powers could still be outmaneuvered by open, innovative societies. In the months that followed, the Ukraine-China incident reshaped defense policies around the globe. Cybersecurity budgets were expanded, electronic warfare units received renewed funding, and international alliances focused heavily on sharing intelligence and counter-deception strategies. Every military simulation began to incorporate the Ukrainian model, emphasizing adaptability, deception, and psychological manipulation as core elements of national defense. The fallout was not just military, it was philosophical. The event forced world powers to confront an uncomfortable truth. Technological supremacy no longer guaranteed safety. For decades, nations had poured billions into creating systems designed to eliminate human error, believing automation would perfect warfare. But Ukraine's success shattered that illusion. It reminded the world that war is still at its core, a human contest, where intellect, courage, and creativity can triumph over even the most advanced machines. Thus, the aftermath of Ukraine's operation was more than a diplomatic embarrassment for China. It was a turning point in history. It redefined global military thought, rewrote doctrines, and sent a clear message across every command center on the planet. The age of deception had begun, and no system, no matter how advanced, would ever again be considered untouchable. The incident that saw Ukraine outsmart one of China's most advanced air defense systems was more than a daring act of wartime deception. It was a moment that announced the arrival of a new era in warfare. The world had long believed that military power depended on who possessed the most lethal weapons, the most extensive armies, and the most advanced technologies. Yet in one bold and calculated move, Ukraine proved that the true battlefield of the future lies not in the skies or on the ground, but in the mind. It was a clear message to every global power: strategy, innovation, and adaptability had become the ultimate weapons of modern war. The old rules of combat were being rewritten in real time. No longer was victory defined by the number of tanks, jets, or missiles a nation could deploy. Instead, it depended on how effectively one could control information, distort perception, and manipulate technology itself. Ukraine's operation demonstrated that intelligence-driven warfare could accomplish in hours what brute military force might fail to achieve in weeks. By blending cyber warfare, psychological manipulation, and technological innovation, Ukraine showed that wars could be won without massive bloodshed or physical destruction, through control of data, deception, and timing. This shift marked a dramatic transformation in the philosophy of military dominance. Superpowers like China, Russia, and the United States had invested billions in developing high-tech defense systems designed to detect and destroy any threat with precision. But those systems were built on predictability. They relied on patterns, algorithms, and pre-programmed responses. Ukraine shattered that logic by introducing unpredictability into the system, an element machines could not calculate. It was as if Ukraine had introduced chaos into a world that thrived on order, forcing even the most advanced technologies to stumble. The message that echoed through global defense communities was clear. The age of technology alone was over. The wars of the 21st century would not be decided by who had the biggest arsenal, but by who had the smartest minds. Artificial intelligence could process data faster than any human, but it lacked intuition, creativity, and the ability to deceive, qualities that Ukraine weaponized to perfection. It was a human victory over machines, a testament to the enduring power of intelligence and imagination in an age that had almost forgotten them. This event also sparked a moral and philosophical awakening in global military thought. It raised questions about the ethics of deception, the boundaries of electronic warfare, and the role of truth in conflict. Could a nation win a war without firing a shot, simply by manipulating what the enemy believed to be true? Ukraine's operation suggested that it could, and in doing so, it forced the world to confront a future where wars might be fought in digital realms, where perception and information were as deadly as bullets and bombs. The symbolism of Ukraine's success extended far beyond the battlefield. For nations under threat or struggling against more powerful adversaries, it was a beacon of hope. It proved that courage, creativity, and intellect could level the playing field against even the mightiest powers. For authoritarian regimes reliant on fear and firepower, it was a warning that innovation cannot be suppressed, and that no system, however advanced, is invincible. Ukraine had not just defended its sovereignty, it had reshaped global perceptions of power itself. The event also accelerated a global race for technological and cognitive warfare dominance. Countries began developing new military doctrines centered on artificial intelligence countermeasures, digital camouflage, and autonomous decision-making systems. Intelligence agencies redefined their priorities, focusing more on psychological operations and cyber deception than on conventional espionage. The age of hybrid warfare, where physical, digital, and psychological tactics merged into one, had truly begun. Yet at the heart of it all was a deeper realization. Human intellect remains the most powerful weapon of all. Ukraine's success was not a product of superior technology, but of superior thinking. It reminded the world that wars are not merely fought on the front lines, they are designed in command rooms, coded in cyber labs, and won in the minds of strategists who understand that perception can be more powerful than precision. The message was undeniable. The future of warfare belongs to those who can outthink, not just outgun, their enemies. In the end, Ukraine's operation became a symbol of evolution, a clear demonstration that warfare had entered a new chapter, where intelligence eclipsed intimidation. The event redefined what it means to be powerful, proving that in the digital age, strategy is the new sword, and knowledge is the new shield. Those who fail to adapt to this reality will find themselves outmaneuvered, outsmarted, and ultimately outplayed. Ukraine had not just tricked an air defense system, it had changed the very definition of victory.